Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. I am sending you all love and high vibrations to start the year. 2021 was a roller coaster, but I am grateful to have started this channel. It's been incredible to watch this community grow and get to know so many of you and be a part of so many individuals' journeys. I'm really looking forward to another year with all you conscious beings. The Waters Above Wolfpack has become a global family, and it's amazing to see people from all around the world connecting with my work. I'm really so grateful for every single one of you. 2022 is not going to be easy. This year will be packed full of rituals and chaos, and that is exactly why we need to stick together during these times. Protect your energy from the energy vampires. Remove your fears, serve your purpose, never compromise, and your higher self will take care of the rest. That's how we unlock abundance and stay calm in the chaos of what's to come. We can be the light that shines through the darkness and never let anything external prevent you from being what you truly are. The answer is within. So that's the vibe for 2022. If you're on that same energy, I appreciate you being here. If you're not, we love you too. So in today's video, I'm going to start out with a Gematria decode and share some date connections I found for this week, and then go over the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to do some technical analysis for the start of the year. And also just a reminder, the new month has started on Patreon. For those of you that have been patiently waiting to join, I appreciate you. You can visit patreon.com/watersabove to sign up for the Mastermind Community membership and get instant access to my exclusive Patreon posts, all of my weekly Red Pill episodes, which are my technical analysis podcasts, where I go over altcoins and also how I'm feeling about the market. It's sort of like my weekly market wrap-up. And you'll also have access to our community Discord group chat and also get live updates to see what I'm personally buying and selling. Lately, since the market has been down, I've been definitely starting to reaccumulate on some positions of the coins that I'm most interested in for the finality of this bull run. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So, although controversial, I do need to bring this up because it could be something that is important. So we have this, and I'm going to call it Cinco G for the rest of this video just to keep everything nice and safe for us. But we do have this alleged rollout of the C-band spectrum, which will be on the 5th of January. And it's quite interesting because, as you can see here, some of the phone companies, cell phone providers here in the States are trying to delay this rollout, which I think is really interesting. Allegedly, it's having some issues with airplanes and their landing technology that they have for being able to determine how far off the ground they are whilst they are landing planes. So there's probably so much more to cover with this, but just for the sake of the narrative, I wanted to share the importance behind this date of the 5th of January. So again, in 2 days, January 5th, the USA will begin its Cinco G rollout using C-band spectrum, and this date is exactly 666 days since the day before the C-scam was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization on the 11th of March in 2020. So let me just show you right here. So right here I have plugged in the 10th of March, which was the day leading up to the 11th of March when the World Health Organization officially declared the pandemic of the C-scam. And this date right here connected to the day before, you can see right here giving us exactly 666 days. And So the direct connection is showing this would be the 11th over to the 6th, but I have a bunch more to show you about this entire week because this 666 connection is going to come up several times. But just to consider the date and why this date, March 11th, was so special, some people might be asking, and it has everything to do with the numerology. So when we're looking at the year of 2020, we remove the zeros, and that gives you 2, 2. So that's 22. Then the 311 is 3 times 11, which is the 33. So you have 33 by 3 times 11, and then you have 22, and 33 plus 22 equals 55. And this 55 number we know is quite important in my work, especially because it comes back to Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. And of course, you know, a lot of people, when they hear me say this, they're taking this literally. Like, I completely understand that Satoshi is a made-up character, but you need to be taught how important these connections are. And what's funny is the truth is always hiding in plain sight. And it's always these numbers that are being shown to us on the world stage through outlets such as Wikipedia or just news articles, the headlines. This is where we get the juicy information to be able to do decodes. And I'm going to show you just how important this Satoshi figure is a little bit later in regards to his age and how this all connects. But more importantly, we have this Satoshi Nakamoto giving us the 55 in Chaldean, most pure cipher. And I was just showing you March 11th, the 33 and the 22. 33 plus 22 equals 55. And the following day was the 55 date numerology, the 3 plus 12 plus 20 plus 20. And this is insane because this was the day that the market actually had the biggest single daily red candle for the crash that happened back in March of 2020. And you could see that right here. If I was to zoom in, you could see that Bitcoin lost about 39% on that day. And this whole day was a candle body, not a wick. Okay, so the 12th of March was really devastating. And we could see it clear as day in the date numerology, the 55, and that huge connection coming back to Satoshi Nakamoto with 55. Also, this date was the 72nd day of the year. That's 72 coming back to what Satoshi Nakamoto created, Bitcoin. All right. And there's just so much going on with this date. I mean, it was a Thursday, which is Thor's Day, the day of Jupiter. And there's a direct connection to Jupiter as well, because that 72 mirrored is 27, and 27 comes back to Jupiter in Chaldean. Also, we have that 36 connection, which comes back to Bitcoin in the same cipher. So there's a lot to be said here, but more importantly, that day of March 12th was very important. It was the day that pretty much all cryptocurrencies and the entire market as a whole crashed. I believe even the Dow Jones and the S&P indices were hit really hard that day. Now, why this is all important, not only because of this 55 connection, but this date right here of the 12th leaves us 666 days leading up to the 7th of January. So this was the big crash day, and the 13th of March was the official low that we had. So if we go over to the chart, you can see this wick right here on the 13th was actually the low, and that was the Friday the 13th, and Bitcoin went all the way down to like 3,800, 3,700 on some charts. So that is also really, really interesting, especially the 3,700, those exchanges that read that number, because the 37 or 37 is 3 sevens, which is 777, and that comes back to 21. And we have 21 million Bitcoins in supply. And of course, as I say this, Ethereum is trading at $3,700, just like the code shows. So now, with this connection of that 666, I actually shared this yesterday on my Red Pill episode that I released, which, by the way, went over some pretty interesting coins in that, one of which was IOTA. So I'm actually getting pretty interested in that coin. If anyone knows about IOTA, please share that in the comments. I would love to know what you guys think. And overall, that was my longest Red Pill podcast I've done. So it was packed full of gems. I actually did a full breakdown of the macro technical analysis on Bitcoin, going from the yearly candles, the 3-month, which is the quarterly, down to the bi-monthly, etc. And I did a full thorough analysis on all of that. So if anyone's interested in a really comprehensive breakdown of TA, and that podcast is currently available for anyone who is part of my Patreon, the Mastermind Community membership. So anyways, this big connection here of the Friday the 13th coming back to the 8th of January with the 666 days is definitely something I'm keeping in mind. I know I just gave 3 dates, but I'm going to put most of my emphasis on the 5th of January and the 8th. The 5th because of our Cinco G rollout that we just discussed, and also the 8th because of a couple more things that I want to bring up to you. So one thing that's really special about this date of the 8th is it's giving us the 15 date numerology. So this is standard date numerology where you're just doing single digits, and of course zeros have no value. So this is giving us the 15. And why is that so important? Remember what I was teaching you guys all back, two to 3 weeks ago, perhaps at the start of Sagittarius. I was exposing the new variant, the oh my, you know what I'm about to say. And that variant, or that letter, is the 15th Greek letter. So this 15 number is absolutely crucial. And remember the date of this rollout, the 5th, which would be the 1-5 date numerology. Again, coming back to the 15, which has everything to do with the new variant and that psyop as a whole. Also remember that new variant gives us the 70 in Greek isopsophy. So for anyone, just type in the new variant name and start learning about it. It's 15th Greek letter, and it gives the value in Greek isopsophy of 70. And why is that so important? Well, just a couple days ago at our yearly close for the stock market, it was the 70th time that the S&P 500 closed at an all-time high. I'll repeat that again. It was the 70th time that the S&P 500 closed the year off with an all-time high. Now, we also have, in 1 month and 3 days from today, will be the 70th anniversary of the Queen of England, her monarch reign. And guess how many Commonwealth realms that she watches over? 15. Think about how important these numbers are, guys. This is all tied together with the 70 and the 15. And why is the 70 so crucial? Because that has everything to do with the sevens, which has to do with Shemitah, the 7-year cycle. Okay? So this 70 years of the Queen is called Platinum Jubilee. And for those of you that study what Jubilee is, it is 7 cycles of 7 years, or seven Shemitahs. Now, that means it equals 49, and then on the 50th year, you have Jubilee. So they are celebrating on I believe it is the 2nd of February, which is very soon. They will be, or the 6th of February, excuse me. They will be celebrating the 70th year since the Queen's coronation. So that 70 tied back through this new variant is absolutely amazing. How the stock market also closed off the year of 2021 with its 70th time at an all-time high. And of course, all of this is tying in to what's going on here. So it's really, really fascinating how this is all turning out. And also, the 10th of March, the day that I started this with, which was giving us the 666 connection to January 5th, again, the 15 date numeral, or sorry, the 1-5 date. This was the 70th day of the year. So I'm just, it shows you how brilliant all these codes are once you start adding them up. So anyways, this 7th day I'm also interested in, because when you're taking it from the 12th of March, the day that we had this big death candle in crypto, this connection right here, not only is that 666, but I broke down that 55 for you. There's one more thing to bring up, which is this date numerology of... So, never mind. It is the 7th day, and that 7 connection to the Shemitah is really where I'm wondering how this is all going to play out. Because remember, Shemitah is the 7-year cycle. I was just telling you 7 cycles of 7 is Jubilee. And of course, on the 50th year, we have Jubilee, and the date numerology of the 7th day of this year is 50. So this whole week is pretty troubling to me. Like, I don't really see anything nice to say about it. Like, I would not be surprised if something happened on the world stage just because of all these connections. And the fact that they're trying to delay this alleged Cinco G rollout is something that's, again, also interesting how the world isn't talking about this. And I'm not entirely sure if this is only the USA going through this or if this is multiple countries. Also, if anyone knows about if multiple countries are going through this rollout, please let me know. I would be really interested to see how that all turns out. So, one thing to also consider here with this date numerology on the 5th, the day of this rollout, it will be the 12. And that 12 is, it's coming back to, to this when you add it up. We're getting the 12. And then also with this, you get the 8 in Chaldean, and that will be the 8th day of the year leading up to this big connection that I had with the Friday the 13th of 2020. The day of the lows on Bitcoin. And also, that was the 56 date numerology back then on March 13th, 2020. And that 56 is coming back to our good old friends, the Jesuit order, who we are well aware of by now in their control on the main stage. This is like mind-blowing how this is all coming together. So anyways, let's continue. And this date of the 8th is also a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn, which comes back to the Sabbath, and that has everything to do with Judaism. And it will be the 1-8 date, and that 18 is very important in Judaism. I've exposed that many times, and that comes back to Shemitah, which has the 18 in Chaldean, just like this date this date will be the 1-8 date. And then also, Shemitah equals 70 in English ordinal, coming back to all those connections we made before, such as the S&P 500 closing 70th year at all-time highs, then the Queen of England 70th anniversary coming up next month in this year of 2022. And it's all about this year of 2022, guys. It's huge. This 2-2 connection comes back to the Hebrew year that we are also in, which is 5782, which reduces down to the 2-2. So this date of the 8th and the date of the 5th definitely on my mind because of this code. And I'm just gonna, let it be. I don't really want to think too deeply on what could happen. I think it might not necessarily affect the market. It might just be something, global. Something global. And of course, typically those things do affect the market. But after we've had a market that's sitting at such low levels, such as the crypto market, it's hard to see it becoming like crash territory. But we have to be aware of anything. If anyone is in any projects and you're profitable right now, and you're in things like Solana or Terra Luna, I'm not telling you what to do, but just be considerate of everything. Be considerate of this stuff and use the code accordingly if you would like to protect yourself. Again, it's completely up to you, but these connections are pretty profound. So one last thing, if you go from Rosh Hashanah this year on the last day of Rosh Hashanah of 2021, the start of the Shemitah was the 7th, but the last day of Rosh Hashanah was the 8th, and you go over to the 5th of January, again, coming back to this connection that we've been making, this gives us 119 days, which is the 9/11 backwards. So that could be another piece of evidence. And one other thing is if you take from Hanukkah, which is the 6th of the last day of Hanukkah of this year, the last Hanukkah we just had was on the 6th of December of 2021. And if you connect that to the 8th of January, you get 33 days. So this 5th and the 8th date, I could keep making more connections, but how many more do I need to make? This is crazy. So keep this stuff in mind, guys. Again, this 15 date numerology on this day, on the Saturn's day, which comes back to that 15 and the 15th Greek letter in the Greek alphabet, and all of these connections with the 666 going back to March of the year 2020, which was the 2-2 year, by the way. So remember what I was telling you guys with this connection, the 2-2 and the 2-2. These years are both showing us why there's big energy in those years. Those twos and the 22s, like I showed you right here, is all about the reset, and it's all about big changes in energy. Remember, what is this scam called? C19, all right, which is all about Ra, the sun, and potentially blocking out the sun, which is something that me and Logan over at Decode Your Reality have a lot to talk about. Again, this new Matrix movie that came out, everyone's wearing glasses. I mean, it's pretty obvious by now. So again, my final thoughts on this are the 5th and the 8th of this upcoming week are definitely something to keep an eye on. I would definitely urge people, if you're not a great trader or if you're new at trading, please protect yourself. Do not go crazy leverage trading right now with this much volatility potentially in the market because of these key connections. I mean, we have to admit, this date right here of the 11th of March changed our lives. Like, we're in a new world now, guys. This wasn't a joke. Like, we all live in a new world right now because of this date. So I don't take this lightly, and I don't expose this lightly. This isn't just like a decode for fun. Like, all the numbers that I'm sharing with you are because they have profound connections. And this one, I believe, is a very important one, this 666 connection. So don't take this lightly. I am not. I'm personally anticipating anything this year because this year is the Shemitah year, and I definitely want everyone else who follows my work to be open-minded to all these possibilities. Again, I always say anything is possible in the Matrix, but you do not want to be caught on the wrong side of these things if you're playing a risky game such as crypto, and if you're trying to be greedy, okay? So like I said, if you are already highly profitable in this market and you've rolled over into this new year, perhaps consider just de-risking anything. Again, de-risking is typically a term used for your initial investments, the hard-earned money you put in the market. Everything else is house money. So take that for what you will. I know what I will be doing in the event of anything. I mean, I've been in this market now for a long enough time to not really be worried about the numbers, but when it comes to trading and when it comes to, being overly speculative with certain projects to invest in, that's definitely the kind of stuff that I'm watching out for. There's like an NFT craze right now and metaverse, and they're really trying to get a certain type of person into crypto at this time, and I really wonder why, especially with this rollout, getting everyone into AI and virtual reality. I mean, anyways, so don't want to make this video crazy long, but let's get into the analysis. So one important thing to bring up is our yearly close for Bitcoin, which you can see right here was actually exactly $46,100 or so. So let's just say the year of 2021, which again, that 21 comes back to Bitcoin through the fact that Bitcoin has 21 million coins in supply, and Satoshi Nakamoto is Saturn, and Saturn equals 21. We know this because I've gone over it so many times. And that 46,000 yearly close that we had in this year does not surprise me at all now, because Satoshi Nakamoto is 46 years old. You can't make this shit up. So with Satoshi turning 47 in April 5th of 2022, that 47 number is definitely something to expose in the future. There's a couple of big connections there, but the 74 is definitely something that I've shown before with our two best friends, Jesus and Lucy. With the 74, I believe there's a couple of other interesting connections that I've seen with this, perhaps. Gotta love the 66 in Moloch. So anyways, I don't have that information prepared just yet because I want to do a comprehensive decode on 47, not just on 74. But that 74 is, of course, the mirror of 47. And there's some things that me and Logan discussed about tarot and periodic table, and we could include all that information as well to share something that could be profound moving into this month of April, where we will have the 47th year of Satoshi Nakamoto and the 13th anniversary of Bitcoin. And of course, this year closed out at $46,000, and Satoshi is 46 years old. So huge connection there, and showing you the power of this code. So also the weekly close that we had, let's look at some of the technicals. I'm just going to bring up some of the moving averages, and this could help hide the drawings. And you can see right here that this is very interesting structure. We actually do not have a bearish engulfing candle this week, but it was a pretty bloody week to finish off the year. Of course, tax loss harvesting, people taking some final profits. We had the week end during the end of the year, so that was mostly retail selling and retail trading, of course. And you also have to consider this white moving average, which is the 55 simple moving average. That moving average has been in play pretty much as a support going back to May of 2020. So the only time this 55, the white moving average, was invalidated was during the C-scam crash. Other than that, it's been holding a perfect support whenever we are bullish. So we can go back and see this pretty clear. If I turn off the moon cycles and I turn off these right here, when we have a cross of this 8 above the 55, the market from 2015 all the way to 2017 was in a noticeable uptrend. Once we had this cross of the 8 below the 55, you can see that once we started closing below the 55, we came up, got rejected by backtesting it, and then went into even lower lows that got supported by the 200 simple. Then you can see we bottomed out, had a little cup and handle formation. Then you can see another cross of the 8 above the 55, which led to a rally. And this looks like small, but if you went off the lows of buying the 200 simple up to the highs, you made, pretty much in a half a year, you saw 330% gains, which for the altcoins could have been pretty profound. So these crosses on a weekly chart, I call this the wolf cross, when you have the 8 and the 55 interacting with each other. And whenever we are maintaining above the 55 simple moving average on the weekly chart, we're typically in a bullish posture. And it's until we get crosses of the 8 below the 55 that we have to worry. So I mean, this is a weekly, so we only have data that goes back to, well, yeah, I mean, we do have a sufficient amount of data, not necessarily for the 200s, for the 200 exponential and the 200 simple moving average in the weekly. And we do know that Bitcoin's an extremely volatile asset that tends to make really big parabolas to blow off tops, followed by large 80+% corrections. So with all those things said, it's kind of hard to be using the more data we aggregate in the charts on a longer time frame, and the more sideways we are at these levels, because moving averages are lagging indicators, it's something to keep in mind. That's all I wanted to preface with. And of course, we've seen a bounce here where the 8 starts to interact with the 55. It bounces to the upside. And off of this bounce right here, we can see this bull trap produced about a 60% gain. And this move right here was the fake out bull trap, which led to the dump. This is super intentional, by the way, when the market makers push us up to look like we're about to reverse, but then it's to plan a crash. And this crash was obvious, like by the numbers. If you start to calculate some of the some of the numbers that were going on here with this date in particular, I think it was 222 months before the before 9/11. Like if you measure from 9/11, let me just quickly show you that. So 9/11 2001, and then we go to 3/11, I believe 2020. Yes, look, it is exactly 222 months. Yep. So there you go. That 2-2, like I've been explaining, like again, we're in the 2022 year, and that 222 with the 0 removed, it's giving you that same reading that I was just talking about. So anyways, definitely consider this cross, but because it's a weekly chart, it takes some time. I would not be surprised if there was a little bounce. And we do have to be cautious of Bitcoin at this stage just because of the way it's interacting with the 55 simple on the weekly chart. Again, it's Monday, which means that the weekly close is a full 7 trading days away. So we could totally bounce from those levels. But for the fact that the market has all these extreme connections for the 5th through 8th of January with those 666 connections, I don't really like it. This isn't looking great. At all from a technical perspective. It's really not. I remember in my last couple videos I was discussing this idea of me wanting a boring January, But it needs to be boring and in an uptrend. It can't be boring and in a downtrend, because we're going to start to see a lot of these technical indicators flash bearish, and that could lead to corrections. And this structure is looking very much like a head and shoulders if you look left shoulder, head, and potential right shoulder. So I don't want to get bearish, and I'm not being bearish. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in the charts. My overall thesis is that most likely we're not crashing in the month of January and early February because of historic data. We've never really seen big market corrections happen in January or early February, only late February and March. And those iterations of crashes in March were all in recent history. So we have the 2020 March C-word crash, then we have the 2000 dot-com bubble crash. That was in March as well. I believe it was March 10th, again, which ties perfectly back into the decode I was sharing earlier. So, we can't always play on historical data. Of course, there's anomalies, which means that anything is possible. But you see what I'm doing here. I'm trying to give you guys as much information as I possibly can. So the 3-day closes tonight as well. We're holding this 46,000 level, but ideally we would want to close above that 8 simple moving average, which right now is sitting at about 47,800. So Bitcoin would be great for Bitcoin to be bought up a little bit into the end of today. The fact that we opened so not necessarily bearish. It could be due to the DXY being up right now, almost 0.7%. The market is also up though, which again, this DXY used to be more of a counter indicator, and it's not necessarily showing itself near the beginning or end of the year. It's just because of how manipulated this all is with people taking profits for either tax loss harvesting, or right now they are taking profits to defer taxes an additional calendar year, which is way more popular in crypto, by the way, because crypto has way more ROI. So with crypto being a asset, it has the capital gains are higher. Anyways, let's continue on to this analysis. So the 3-day, it would be great to close above this 8 simple moving average to show some structure. But at this time, we do have a wolf cross, which has downside implied, and that's not great to see. I mean, honestly, with these 200s sitting all the way down at 37, I don't like that, because that would break structure. That would break below the lows of September. So with any flashes, it would need to be bought up pretty quickly. Again, in my last video, I was exposing the $38,000 level, because that was where the hash ribbons indicator flashed the last time. And that indicator has been spot on for never going lower than the price that it flashes at, except for one time, and that was during the C-scam crash. So something else to keep in mind. Indicators are sometimes better than others, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're 100% accurate all the time. If that was how easy it was, everyone would be rich. All you would need to do is get an indicator and you'd be making financial freedom. So this is the daily chart. It's not looking good. Again, this 8 simple moving average has crossed below the 200 simple. That's a problem, in my opinion. It's showing us that these typical levels that we would hold, the 200 simple, for instance, has been closures for multiple days now, and also showing us a clean resistance. And with the 8 also becoming a resistance, this is too much. And although we can base out at these levels for an excruciating amount of time, it's not necessarily fun to watch. I also exposed this iteration over here where we had a big dump followed by 2 back-to-back eclipses. So here we had the big dump, we had the 2 back-to-back eclipses, and then here we had a little bit of a move to the upside, which could be similar to this posture right here. You could also see how it's interacting with the 200 exponential, this green moving average, which was basically what we were playing around with at the end of the year. And then we saw further continuation to the downside, and then eventually we had a Mercury retrograde, and we've recovered off of that. So that's another thing to consider. We have Mercury retrograde, I believe, on the 13th, 14th of January. So it would be interesting if we almost repeat this structure where we have crash, back-to-back eclipses, then we have a little bit of a bull trap fake out, come back down to the lows, and then off of the full moons, we play a double bottom or a bottoming structure followed by Mercury retrograde and then remain bullish. And I believe Mercury retrograde was right here, right? It pretty much just went up in a straight line. So I'm not saying that it will do that, but most Mercury retrogrades are bullish or they're completely boring and sideways. There's Again, there's one iteration of a Mercury retrograde in 2020, which was right here. It was right before the dump. So, but we did move bullish through the Mercury retrograde. We moved bullish into it, and after it was done, that we dumped later. So most of the time we're bullish in the Mercury retrograde, and the fact that that's about 11 days away or so, it could be something that gives some hopium, regardless of structure, regardless of the technicals. And we do know astrology is such an important part of this market. Of course, we can get more deep into the astrology, but it's not really my expertise. I don't really like to get too deep into that kind of stuff because I believe the Gematria and the numerology are really where you hit home runs regarding how this is all operating. And I would much rather rely on TA than solely on the astrology. With TA, you could actually get some levels, so you actually know where your downside, where your upside is, as opposed to just knowing which direction will go. Because when it comes to knowing how to take profit or how to invest in the market, it's due to the numbers we're getting. You don't buy the correction necessarily, you're buying a price. So we could have a day like the 13th of March where we had a huge dump to the bottom, but most likely you weren't able to buy that wick. If you had TA in place before this all happened, you would have been able to know some of these deep lower levels because of the moving averages on that day, because of the prior bear market lows being around that level, as you can see right here. If you were to draw a horizontal trading range and show you the levels of here, we basically just back tested it, right? So TA is really important if you consider it when you're actually being an active member of this market, meaning you're buying, selling, and you're actually trying to participate, not just expecting big moves. Anyone could think of when big moves are going to come, but it doesn't really matter if you never take action. That's kind of the point of what I'm trying to say. So with this being said, I'll just give you some upside and downside levels. First of which, it would be holding the $46,200 level on a daily close, and then wicks down to the 45.6 are definitely in the cards, but anything lower than that, I would say closing a daily below 46K would indicate we're probably going to move down to 43. 42, and I've stated that already. So, as for upside targets, it would be somewhere around 51K. That is the main resistance level, the 51 to 52K level. It's in alignment with this neckline of the W that we're seeing right here, and we could see that this 55 simple moving average is crossing to the downside very fast, and right now it's at 53.1, which means that probably in the next day or two it's going to start approaching the 52,000 level and be in alignment with this top wick that we have here on December 27th. So that's going to give me some confluence that if Bitcoin does get a relief rally, if it could get above this 55 simple moving average, it'll also be above the prior wick highs, which will show us a bullish reversal. And honestly, because of how bearish it's been off of the highs and how quickly it dumped to lows, followed by the length of time that it might be sideways creating a basing structure, this tells me that if we can get above 52 or 51,500, it's probably going to swipe straight to 60, just because of the basically what I just explained. I wouldn't see it as a slow move up. It would probably be like within a week we'd move up from the 52, 53 into 60. It would probably be pretty rapid just because of how bearish it's been and how boring and how low the volume it has been. And since we're starting a new year, it's definitely temperamental, and I made a bunch of connections with the code to show you why it could be temperamental. So let's look at the ETH chart really quickly. ETH had a great close, all things considered. Now you can see this daily chart looks a little bit different. We actually have the 8 simple moving average, and we've gotten above it yesterday, and we're balancing on it right now. So that's looking pretty solid. Let's look at the 3-day. Okay, the 3-day, we're seeing something right here. You can see that this 55 simple moving average on the 3-day chart tends to be a nice support. Here we had our bearish cross where the wolf cross where the 8 went below the 55 and we started trading below it. But where we traded below right here was basically back testing the resistance of these levels right here. So what does that tell me? This used to be the resistance, and this is a clear resistance sitting around $3,800. Right now we're playing with that area, but because we're coiling up into this downtrend, you could see it's like a perfect repeat symmetrical move from when we were moving up from September 19th to here, and the same way moving down. It's like literally symmetrical in the movement pattern. But because this 8 is getting close to interacting with the 55, that cross, if the 8 gets below that, That's not great. And the next level I would anticipate is backtesting the wick lows of 2,900, 2,800, somewhere around here. And that would be a support level. Besides that, the next support level would be this neckline right here of this W, which is 2,300. And that would be in alignment with the support lows right here. You can see that since this bigger dump after the all-time high in ETH, it held the 2,400 level for a majority of the 3-day closures until it decided to come back down to backtest this area and then popped up. So when it has this is a really confusing stage, but this double bottom structure, W breakout, is something it's pretty nice for traders, and it's really nice to dollar cost average if you want to get some of the lowest buys in before momentum to the upside. So let's keep an eye on this. If we are going to get this cross and short-term bearish price action, we could just have a scenario back here, and that is in full alignment with what I exposed about the back-to-back eclipses, followed by Mercury retrograde. So downside target, I'd be looking somewhere around 2,007, 2,900, somewhere in this range, 2.7 to 2.9. If this cannot hold, and that level would be around 3,600. Closing a daily below 3,600 would indicate to me that it's time to have a short move to the downside. And then above 4,200, I would get, short-term like bullish just because of the structure reversing. Until we're above 4,140, we're just in a noticeable downtrend off of this local structure. So XRP, this is definitely something to consider here. We have this cross coming in on the daily where the 55 is crossing below the 200. Some might call that a death cross. I really don't care about shit like that in crypto. It's not necessarily the most useful thing. We've seen these crosses actually create bullish price, because if we get dumps that were very hard and fast into this cross, which led up, maybe we're talking about 30 days off of the big dramatic move, it's just because this was a huge big liquidity event, and that's going to make a lagging indicator such as moving averages get a little bit distorted. So with that being said, this is clear double bottom looking at this time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have the ability to swipe down to 77, 78. So in the event that Bitcoin cannot hold the 45.5 level, we could absolutely see XRP come down to the 77 area. And then if Bitcoin cannot hold the 45 and goes down to 43 or 42, that would clearly start to get into this territory of the low 70s. So definitely keep that in mind if we're going to get a bearish move in the market. So downside target, probably somewhere getting caught at these wicks in the event that Bitcoin holds the 45.5 area. If it cannot, we're going to anticipate moves below. And then for upside, it's clear it's going to be probably around 96 cents to $1. $1 right now is a psychological resistance for XRP, because ever since the recent highs of the year, last year, we've been pretty much playing with that area now, coiling around it. And the more time we coil around it, and it's such a flat, even number, it's definitely going to make it a level that once we finally break, it's going to be good. But until then, it's going to be choppy into that level. And we could see right here, we did have a relief rally that was pretty dramatic into December 23rd, but that rejection was exactly off of $1. We came right back down. And I like these W structures, by the way, from me. In the first drop, I don't typically like to reinvest, but then after we get a relief rally and recorrect, that's when I like to invest, because that's typically the area where things are all good in the hood. Although some people might argue that it is the potential for a dead cat bounce, and I completely agree. But when you look at RSI getting into like oversold levels, and then you start to see reversals, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I've just been playing in the market long enough now to buying the double bottom is pretty nice. It's never the greatest prices, but it's a lot better than buying the fake out, because a lot of people buy fake outs by mistake. So I will expose how I do it. After we get a big correction, I don't buy the first part of the correction, but I definitely do not buy the relief rally. I wait until we get rejections, because we typically have a double bottom in the structure. Or if you were doing Wyckoff, we have like buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally. I wait till the automatic rally is complete. And you could figure that out by using Fibonacci and determining where the golden pocket is. So Anyways, it's a long video. I wanted to wrap this one up now just to say that, the 5th of January and the 8th of January could be potential something to watch out for. With the DXY looking pretty solid into today, we just have to see how the rest of this day closes. Tomorrow, not being a significant date necessarily, but we do have that as the transition date into this rollout. You never know. Maybe tomorrow we wake up and this all gets delayed. Whatever, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter to me because I don't have that job. So anyways, I appreciate every single one of you. I wanted to kick off this year with a video that was comprehensive, that gave you all of my outlook onto how things might go in the short term. I mean, overall, because of the data we have around January and February historically in the market, I would be looking for bigger corrections perhaps into the month of May or late April, probably around the 2 back-to-back eclipses we have in April and May. Until then, I assume that we could chop around looking sideways, boring, and bloody, and that would be the most preferred outcome at this stage because it gives us more time to reaccumulate, and the more coins that we could get at an extreme discount, the better. So again, I have the Mastermind community on Patreon is now live for the month of January. Anyone who wanted to join that, I really appreciate your support. You'll be getting Discord access and also access to my recent Red Pill episode, which I just released yesterday. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day in the Matrix. Much love.